Hi, my name's Matt Slater and I'm from Cornwall Wildlife Trusts Shoresearch project. I'm down here on the shore and this is my first trip out since lockdown started to ease a little, and I'm here on my own obviously to try and minimise any coronavirus risks, but I feel very lucky to be out on such a beautiful day. It's absolutely stunning. So I'm down here at Turnaware Point, which is in the River Fal, and this is an area where we've done some oyster control work in the last few years as part of the Pacific Oyster project. Actually, this bit of shore here hasn't ever been controlled, so I'm just going to show you what it looks like. It's quite amazing. So hopefully you can see this reef in front of us and the quadrat. I'm about to count the oysters within the quadrat, and as far as you can see, there's oysters all over the rocks here. And these are non-native Pacific oysters. They're an alien species that's starting to really take over our shores all around Cornwall. And today I'm going to be counting the number of oysters. Every 5 metres I'm going to put down a quadrat, count the number of oysters, and that's going to go towards our analysis of how successful the controls work has been. So this area has not been controlled, but further down here there's a patch of shore where we've actually manually killed some oysters, and we're going to see today whether or not the oysters have managed to grow back and repopulate. I've just walked over that area, and although there's a lot of dead ones, there's scarily quite a lot of live ones. And I know we were down here with a team of guys and volunteers from the National Trust, and they did a great job of smashing all the oysters we could find, but there appears to be a lot more that have come back, which is not really a good sign. Anyway, I'll show you a bit more of that in a bit. I'm going to get started now with the survey. So I'm halfway along the shore now, and I'm well into the area where we did quite a bit of control work about a year ago, and you can see on the shore here in front of me quite a lot of scars where the Pacific oysters have been bashed and killed. The shell gets left attached to the rock, and it gradually starts to begin with, it's bright white and shiny, and then it gradually starts to get colonised with barnacles and algae and looks a lot more dull. But you can see within my quadrat here, although there's 3 oysters there, 1, 2, 3 that were culled, we've now got 2 new ones that have come back within the year. Sorry, 3. There's a juvenile. So there's quite a few of these small ones. This one here may have been missed. It's quite an old oyster, so perhaps that was missed during the previous cull. But these 2 are definitely new arrivals, and it just shows you that, you know, what we're dealing with. Obviously, if you cull here once a year, you're not eradicating them. You're probably just keeping them in check, as opposed to eradication. And you can see all around me there's quite a few live oysters. There's a few more juveniles, 2 juveniles there, some dead scars of previously culled oysters. But just a little way down here, I'm only a couple of metres further down towards the shore. Look, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 oysters, 8, 9, you know. So maybe that area was missed last year in the cull, maybe that was covered in water. Up here there's lots of scars, so they obviously did a better job perhaps up here. But even in this area, let's have a little look. Yeah, 1, 2 juveniles, 3, 4. So you can see these oysters are doing a good job at recolonising despite the best efforts. All of the data I'm collecting today is going to get scientifically analysed at Natural England, and you know, the decision off the back of this we made as to whether we will recommend manual culling. I mean, it certainly does seem to be keeping it under control, but it involves a lot of effort, a lot of work. And there are some areas where oysters can be harvested for use. So here on this reef where they're just growing attached to the rocks, if you chip the oyster off the rock, you're going to damage it. And what that means is you can't then put it into a purification system to purify it for human consumption. So these oysters are arguably far less valuable than oysters you might find growing, say, on the other shore over in the estuary over here, where they're growing on sort of gravelly shore. They're more marketable. You can pick them up as whole oysters, purify them and sell them for human consumption. But what can we do though with all this shell that's being produced on the shores all around Cornwall? There must be other options, and in other parts of the world they gather up shells, oyster shells like this, grind them up, turn them into soil conditioner. It's high in calcium, high in it's basically lime. You can heat it as well. If you heat it up, you basically make a product a bit like concrete. So it could be being used in some more eco-building projects. Calcium carbonate has a value in itself. It's just the problem is collecting it off the shore is obviously going to cost time and money, and by the time we get a system in place, maybe it will be too late. There's just so many of these oysters everywhere. Here's one that's, look at this, this is really firmly attached. They are rock hard. They're called rock oysters, you can see why. Pacific or rock oysters, non-natives. Yeah, certainly causing us a lot of problems. I'm just having a little break. I'm amazed at how quiet it is here on the shore. No one around, probably due to the lockdown. But you can hear nature all around you, it's brilliant. Just listen. Goodness, look at these ones. That is a massive oyster. They're just lying here in a rock pool, so maybe someone's knocked them off the rocks and is going to come back for them. You know, there's a lot of meat inside an oyster, like that size, and it's good. It's really good eating, but it's important that you don't forage for these and just tuck into them without being very, very careful. You know, our estuaries do get, you know, quite a bit of pollution coming down into them every now and again, particularly after heavy storms. You get a lot of sewage coming down through the estuary, and you also get toxic algae growing sometimes in the sea. So for that reason, all oysters have to be purified before they can be eaten. Now, to purify an oyster, it's not as simple as just leaving it in a bucket of water, which many people think it is. You actually need to set up a purification tank, which is basically a seawater aquarium with water circulating around, going through ultraviolet sterilisers, and that kills off plankton in the water and gives the oysters a chance to get rid of any toxins within them. And they need to be held in there for a period of 2 or 3 days before they can be legally sold. And really, if you go out foraging and you pick up oysters like this and you crack them open and just eat them, they'll taste nice, but you could be causing yourself a lot of problems, and you could even give yourself shellfish poisoning, which really is not good. So obviously at the Wildlife Trust, it's not something we're recommending people start foraging for. However, there are more and more companies now setting up these purification tanks. So there's several companies in Cornwall that have got the tanks, and they're looking for people to collect oysters, and they'll actually pay for them, because there are some chefs who are really getting well, it's good, they're getting adventurous and they're trying these big oysters and finding that they are absolutely delicious. And what a waste to have a resource like that we can't use. But like I said, don't be tempted to forage them yourself. You could get in a lot of trouble. You could make yourself very, very ill. So I finished my survey, and now I'm just cooling my feet off, having a little paddle down here at Turnaware Bar. This is a point, and at the end of this point there's a bar of gravelly sand and shells that extends right out into the creek. And when you look at this, the makeup of this bar that I'm walking on is quite amazing. It's nearly all made out of oyster shells, but these are native oysters. Essentially, it is a reef that's been created over hundreds of years by native oysters. And this species, the native oyster, once common in Europe, is now getting increasingly rare, and there are very few oyster reefs like this left in existence. Sadly, as we're walking along through these shallow waters, looking at all these oysters, every now and again, and amongst the natives, we come across a Pacific. There you go, we've got a Pacific oyster, the non-native one. And it is quite scary that, this is a flat oyster. These flat oysters are pretty rare, and eventually we might find that they get out-competed by the Pacific oyster. Well, I'm really excited. I've just come across a incredible little creature I want to show you. This is a sea slug. So I was just walking along through the shallow water here on top of Turnaware Bar, and look at that, a beautiful red sea slug. It's got to be 2, maybe 3 inches. Absolutely stunning. Really bright red. And this ecosystem created by this reef of native oysters really is home to some incredible biodiversity. Look at that. I wish I had my underwater camera. Don't see these very often at all. In fact, this is the first one of this species I've ever seen. Awesome. All around Europe there are conservation projects trying to grow oyster reefs and create new oyster reefs in areas where they've been lost. But here we've got a healthy one which is facing this threat of a non-native species. So yeah, it's amazing to see it, and a cracking day as well. Very lucky to have had a chance to get out here, and I hope you've enjoyed it. Look out for our project Shoresearch Cornwall on the Cornwall Wildlife Trust website. There's lots more info on there, and once the lockdown starts to ease off a bit more and we can have group gatherings, we'll be running lots of rock pooling and days out and lots of surveys all around the coast once more, I'm sure. Okay, cheers.